A fifth person has died in connection to Wednesday's storming of the U.S. Capitol. Brian Sicknick was a police officer who died due to injuries sustained during the riots. Meanwhile, 55 people have been charged, and President Donald Trump's actions prior to the attacks may be investigated by federal prosecutors. Hours before a mob charged through the Capitol, Mr. Trump had addressed supporters in front of the White House, urging them to march to the building. Well, the president is now allowed to tweet once more after being locked out of his account for 12 hours. And his first tweet was a taped video message where he appeared to concede the election for the first time. He also condemned the violence at the Capitol.
The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. We have just been through an intense election and emotions are high, but now tempers must be cooled and calm restored. Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power.
Foreign editor Bhagya Srigareka is back to discuss the latest developments. So Bhagya, let's first talk about Mr. Trump's video recording on Twitter. Conciliatory, sure, yet he ended his statement by telling his supporters that, quote, "Our journey is only just beginning." What do you make of his address?
Well, actually, I thought his address was quite remarkable. You know, a dramatic change if you compare what he said yesterday and then what we heard this morning, our time. So, firstly, he calls for he says he will ensure a smooth, orderly, seamless transition of power. He doesn't name incoming President Biden. He does not congratulate him. But I think this is still the closest that he has come or will come to a concession speech. The other thing to notice is he does not claim that, his standard claim that he's being deprived of an election victory. Instead, you hear him say that this is a moment of healing and reconciliation. And, just a day earlier, he was saying we will never concede. Now he says tempers must cool, the business of America must go on. So all this is remarkable. When it comes to the rioters, he had called them great patriots, I think a day earlier in his comments even after the episode of violence on Capitol Hill. Now, in his comments, he's condemned them. He says they have defiled the seat of American democracy. He says they will face the law for those who've broken the law. So, the change is quite dramatic. At the end of the speech, that's where you find, I think, the statement that, that struck you about the journey only just beginning. So I think that might be a reference to, his plans after leaving office, perhaps. We know that he has millions of pretty loyal supporters, and also that his future within the Republican Party is uncertain. So many leaders have broken with him quite openly. So I guess we will have to wait and see what his plans are, what he says and announces about them. Maybe it's even another political outfit. And there he could continue his argument that this November 3 election was fraudulent.
Twitter is one platform that Mr. Trump is said to have used to rile up his supporters, but this group, they have also used various forums to share their extremist views. Mr. Trump's Twitter account is back, but his Facebook and Instagram accounts are still suspended at least until the end of this term. So do you think that when it comes to social media and online avenues, has Mr. Trump been effectively muzzled for the time being?
I wouldn't say muzzled. Because he has Twitter, and that has been his main platform. It remains open to him. Twitter managers tend to kind of intervene and flag or delete his posts when they contravene the rules. But otherwise, that's his medium of choice, and it's available to him. So if you follow him on Facebook, I do. And, you notice that most of his comments on Facebook have been, they're basically repeats of what he says on Twitter.
Well, Bhagya, we know that 55 people have been charged so far for their roles in yesterday's siege of the Capitol. What is the U.S. media reporting in terms of the punishments that this mob will face? At the very least, do you think that any of them have lost their jobs?
55 have been charged, as you say, but a vast majority of protesters or rioters were actually allowed to leave the Capitol building, you know. And it's going to actually take police weeks, if not months, to identify the perpetrators, and then put together this evidence that they have against him. They have to look at TV, the surveillance camera footage. They have to look at mobile phone footage. They've actually called the public to share their phone footage and so on. So the charges that can be brought would be like sedition. It could be destruction of property, or even unlawful entry into Congress premises. In, I think, some instances, there could be terrorism charges, because as we know, pipe bombs were found near the offices of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party.
Some have said that Mr. Trump incited the riot, so he could also be investigated. The New York Times reported that the president is considering pardoning himself, although it's not clear whether these discussions are linked to yesterday's events. Well, Bhagya, no president has ever pardoned himself. So what does the law say here? If Trump gives a presidential self-pardon, will it actually go through?
On the issue of pardon, well, Trump has been talking about it for years now. So this is not the first time. Can he pardon himself? Well, as you say, no American president has done that. So it would be uncharted territory. At least some legal experts say that it's possible he can pardon himself, or for that matter, members of his family. And this pardon would actually shield them from federal crimes. It's not going to apply to any violations of state crimes. So we know that while lawsuits are pending against him in his home state of New York, some of these are matters related to the finances of the Trump organization, and these can be prosecuted once Mr. Trump leaves office.